Chapter 17. The first step in any challenge would always prove to be difficult, and for him a step into darkness was not a comfortable one. The step into darkness encouraging a blip in fear, it soon mixed in with an unease of anxiety. As his eyes felt the mist of darkness, his body plunged from a 45-degree angle. The weight of the air beneath him, it soon faded along with the weight of his body. To compare, it felt like a knife sliding through butter. Although a poor image of comparison, I hope you will consider the smoothness of the glide through air. Falling into darkness seemed to be something of a norm to Takahashi. He had done it before when he had killed his wife, in prison, and now in this trial. The gliding down into more and more darkness was compelling all his emotions into the idea of death. He closed his eyes, and the first image in his mind was a large field of short grass, with the horizon glowing with the sunset, and the city of Tokyo in full view, ever hindered by the falling sakura petals of the nearby trees. The silhouette of a woman standing in the rays of the sun, she made the sun and city look so small in comparison. Finally, with her turn to face him, her loving eyes and her uplifting smile brought upon emotion to absolve any man in that moment of any negativity or sadness. It was a moment in his life where him and his wife were connected, as man and wife should have been. Takahashi opened his eyes, and as he imagined, it was there in front of him. The scene, almost movie-like, as he drifted down onto the grass, he felt nothing under his feet. Lifting his eyes, he watched the scene play out, and muttered the words him and his wife said to each other, word for word. Despite not physically feeling anything, his heart still clenched as the scene played out in front of him. "You too," he said, as the scene before him flashed into darkness, and with another flash, another scene began painting itself before him. A sky stolen by the darkness of space glittered with the remnants of starlight. A street lamp buzzed along with the wings of a large insect, the light from the lamp illuminating the small section of his street near his home location. He watched as a man and woman holding hands clumsily walked down the street. The woman in heels, he watched her as her legs wobbled and her ankles bent along with her leg to one side. The man panicked as she stumbled and took her into his arms, the light now illuminating the inches of space between them, their eyes locked in a glassy glow, and the hands of each keeping them close grew gentle to the touch. Their lips finally grasping hold of each other, their eyes closed in peace. The silence of the world around them compacted their emotions in the motion of their heads. Another flash into darkness, Takahashi's heart clenched further, and a grip between his eyes mustered a glass of water into his eye ducts. Another scene began to paint itself before him. Murky and grey the sky was painted. The rain raced to the floor and met its demise in patches of puddles scattered all over the pavements. The drains swallowing what they could, their gurgles fought the splashing of rain for the dominance of noise. Neon lights and signs kept the streets vibrant from the murky grey of the sky and the grey of the pavement. The reflections of the rippled water puddles reflecting the blur of numerous people holding large umbrellas. One puddle in particular, untouched by the ripples of dropping rain, reflected a man and woman taking shelter under a tree. The murky sky had lost its ability to dull the senses. The vibrancy of the neon lights could not distract them. The noise meant nothing to them. It was just him and her and the odd occasional leaf. Their eyes carrying the momentum of emotion, their hands and lips carrying the senses. The moment was enraptured within a bubble of their devotion to one another's attention. He watched the words leave her lips, and as they settled in his ears, there was another flash into darkness. Takahashi clenched his hand to his chest, despite the empty feeling that his body held no shape or weight. The world around him began to paint itself again, and he immediately knew what moment it would be, as he had seen this sky many, many times before. The sky was a dark space black, with more dots for stars keeping it somewhat alive. Cloudless and without a plane in sight, the man and woman he watched before him wore formal Japanese festival clothing. His was a dark navy blue with a white undershirt. Hers was one with sakura petal arrangements scattered across the shoulders, torso and legs, with the tree extending from her toes to the top of her back. Her hair was arranged just how he liked it, with the drape of her neck showing. She was ever more elegant to him than usual. The dark, passionate red of the festival filled the narrow walkway of the food stalls, the hanging decorations of bright yellow and orange contrasting nicely with the dark jet black of the sky. The brightness of the lights reflected almost anywhere they could. The most important reflection seemed to be in her eyes. As the night carried on, they took their places alone on a small stone bridge that crossed a narrow and small canal. Their hands softly grasped. The reflection of the fireworks hit her eyes, and the smile that reached her lips explained the sky. The patterns scattered in reflective patches along the side of her face. As she turned to him, when he got down on one knee, it was quite distracting, but it only added to her beauty, as he asked the question with the presented ring. Her smile then expressing a different smile from the fireworks. She took hold of him as if he would run away. He hugged her slowly and softly, but enough to comfort her excitement. The flower arrangements of the gunpowder exploding in the sky coloured them in a reflective madness that once again, as they turned, took sole control of their eyes. Dark flash after dark flash moments like this, moments of his past, kept painting their way back into his mind, and kept him in a state of emotional and physical pain lingering in his chest and temples. He couldn't grasp an answer from these scenes. He couldn't understand why they were present. The last scene before he realized the answer painted itself in the slowest way it could, with areas being left vague and unfinished. While it carried on with other areas, Takahashi's eyes were asking for it not to be what he was thinking it was. As he turned in different directions to watch the world fulfill its image, he knew what was where and how the image would finish. It started with the clinking of the train tracks. There he was standing behind a yellow line waiting for the train. He was taking it at an awkward time. He looked at his watch and his surroundings, questioning the use of the station. Was it not in use? No, it was 11:15, the in-between of going to work and lunch. Frankly, a perfect time to take the train. The digital information above him telling him its direction. It was heading to Shinjuku. Had he been there before? No. anxiety holding onto his small breakfast. He was heading into the unknown. He was holding a large folder, holding what seemed to be a large amount of paper. His arm, holding the folder, was trembling. It rattled in sync with the rattling of the train tracks. Wearing his work clothing of an office suit, he held sweat at the brow. His eyes twitched in impatience at the time of the train. They then looked at the folder in his right hand, and then at the tracks. The sun, hiding behind the clouds, gave him some respite from the concurrent sweat building on his face. The train approaching, there was no relief on his face, just a sting of sadness and fury. Plenty of seating on the train, and with no soul on his carriage, he still decided to stand, with his body at the opposite doors of which he had entered. The window blurry from the condensation of his breathing, he glanced into his own eyes and found himself clenching his teeth. Ignoring the world outside, his focus drifted between himself and the dangling folder of paper in his right hand. The journey in silence resonated within chaos, sweating, clenching, tightening, twitching, heavy exhales of breath, strong wipes of his brow, and the condescending thumping of his heart in unison with the silence of the carriage. It brewed an already growing resentment. Takahashi, remembering the moment on the train, he understood where this painting would take him, and as he tried to turn away, the image followed. Closing his eyes, he tried to escape. To no avail, the image painted and animated under his eyelids. He could not escape. He crouched and hugged his knees in one last-ditch effort to escape, but it did not help or achieve anything. He was forced to see this through. The train reaching its destination, he stood at the doors, not caring if anyone was behind him, not that anyone was there. He watched the doors open with eyes blistering in hatred. His first step off the train was a tap that echoed down the long, narrow station platform. His grip on the folder grew tighter, the thumping of his heart exacerbating through his ears and neck. It pledged alliance with the fury taking hold of his eyes. Takahashi ran in front of himself to stop him from carrying on. But this proved to do nothing, as his body went right through him. He watched his back walk out of the station and down the long street of shops. Among all the people living their lives, his existence among them seemed not to belong. The same shape, the same colour hair, the same style of work clothing, he still remained a separate entity, with the radiation of a purpose that drew the eyes of normal to him. He was an outcast ruled in a moment of negative emotion. His walking pace began to slow as he was reaching his destination. Down narrow streets he continued, his steps losing distance, his eyes descending from rage to sadness. He continued slow, steady steps to a terrace of houses, all of which looked almost the same. But one had stood out to him, with an entrance gate painted jet black, and the painted bricks a solid white. He did not follow the queue of houses to its left or right. It did not follow the queue of houses to its right or left. The door was painted black, with a large obnoxious knocker. Ignoring that, he checked the number outside the gate, with the surname imprinted on a plaque. Confirming it was the correct place, he went to the side of the building where large glass doors led to a grass area. The curtains were clear enough for eyes to see everything, and everything he saw. It was the glow in her eyes, the contentment in her smile, and the pitch of her laugh that hurt the most. The man's arms around her and his advancements down her body meant absolutely nothing. He meant nothing. There was no expression of guilt, no expression that held loyalty to the man watching from the window. Inside that house, with that other man, she was someone else entirely. Even through curtains that made the world inside look like a murky white mixture of colours, her expressions and movements led him to believe the happiness she expressed with him was a lie. It was a defining moment in his life that captured his soul in a trap consisting of a loop that made him live a life of lies. Ignoring the woman's behaviour, he used the memories of the past to move forward. The memories of forming love, no matter how one-sided, pushed him forward with a woman that was betraying him. Stuck in this loop of apparent lies, with the soul enduring wound of betrayals. It led to another defining moment where he took her life, scarring the soul with her betrayal and his own actions. He had spent a large sum of his life in a limbo of behaviour that until now did not make sense.